Welcome to a very special edition of Everything is Permitted. I'm your host, Julian Brown, alongside the Mother of Dragons, Karyn Brown, and we are going to be breaking down the recently released Captain Marvel trailer.
I am pretty excited about this. I've watched it a bunch of times. Captain Marvel is my girl, and I'm ready to go.
Yep, Karyn is our resident Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers expert, so we're going to watch the trailer, and we're going to be stopping and going. If you would like to do that along with us, we will tell you when we are going to start the playback, and then we'll get this thing started. So Karyn is going to let me know when she wants to stop and talk about something, so that's when we'll stop and go. But we are going to start the trailer right now. That's your cue at home. Here we go.
I love this initial point where immediately you know what time period it is because, boom, blockbuster video. It's genius.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard that the movie's going to take place in the 90s, and then, boom, she falls right into Blockbuster. And it's pretty amazing.
They don't have to set anything up.
90s,
knows.
boom.
Yeah, it's great.
Right now we have Nick Fury doing his voiceover. I like the new blue and gold Marvel Studios logo. Mm-hmm. I actually want to go back a step here really quick to this hospital, what looks like a hospital bed, and you have Nick Fury sitting with a big gun in his hand and what looks like a scroll maybe on the operating table there.
Yeah, some kind of alien figure.
Now, what do you make of this, Karyn? Because Nick Fury is holding an ice pack over his eye, and in this movie he still has two eyes.
I wonder if we're gonna get the story of his eye in this. I would like to have that little bit of Easter egg.
There's a scene later on in the trailer where he does have a nick on his eye, so it might just be that.
Could be a fake out.
We'll see. But that
I didn't even notice the ice pack.
Yeah, he's got an ice pack, and this is a green dude, so that's got to be a Skrull.
Yeah.
All right, we continue with Nick Fury's voiceover.
I love 90s Nick Fury. Just everything about it. The suit and the sunglasses and the hair and just everything.
Yeah, and the de-aging technology. This is the first time that they're going to use it for a full feature-length film between him and Phil Coulson is also going to be de-aged. But, I mean, the technology just keeps getting better and better and better. I mean, obviously, Sam Jackson at least did a ton of movies back in the 90s, so they have a huge
lots of reference. Yeah, it's got like an almost a Pulp Fiction sort of look to it, and I BMF so appreciate that.
And this may be the Kree homeworld.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And then you've got her Air Force days. It's interesting because this whole section where she talks about I think I had a life here, and she's not sure. Is she talking that she doesn't quite remember her human self? Or, I mean, in the comics, she's a human with Kree DNA who has, had Kree DNA basically infused into her, which gives her her powers. So, is she remembering the Kree homeworld? Is she remembering, which is possibly a false memory? Is she not quite remembering her own self? It'll be interesting to see what actually transpires of that.
We're going to talk a lot about that on our next episode with you and going into Carol's backstory and how she gets these powers. But no doubt what Marvel generally does is, they go back and they kind of mix up the origin stories a little bit. Do you think, we were talking about it before we started recording, do you think this is something where she gains her powers on Earth somehow from like a crashed ship? And are we assuming that Jude Law's character is Mar-Vell, or are we not quite sure yet?
That's the question, and I think it is definitely a plausible theory that he is Mar-Vell. I think Mar-Vell has got to be somewhere in this movie, and the question is what is his actual role and what are they doing with him? Because Mar-Vell is where she gets her powers from. So I think if you're going to do an origin, you can't cut him out of the part.
Are you resigned to the theory possibly that she gets kidnapped from Earth, or does she go willingly, and does she get brainwashed? What are you leaning towards before we continue watching this?
I don't know. In the comics, it's not necessarily a kidnapping situation. He's a sort of undercover Kree within the military.
He's sent to Earth to scout for an invasion, but ends up falling in love with the human race, basically.
Yeah, and they become friends, and he ends up infusing her with Kree DNA so that she gets her powers, which may or may not have been an accident. And it's not looking like it's an accident in this, because, obviously you've got that shot of her, strapped to whatever apparatus where she's getting, something.
Well, that I'm thinking maybe that's a brainwashing thing. I feel like she gets her powers earlier in the trailer during that explosion scene. It looks like she's kind of on the ground radiating with this cosmic energy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know.
The trailer doesn't give us a lot. Let's continue. Now, real quick, I want to stop it here too. This part where she's in this fighter jet. One, it looks like she's in space. Two, excuse me, this cockpit does not look like something from the 90s. Are we gonna be in the present day at all during this movie? Because that looks like some high tech, even for S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 1990s.
But is it Earth tech?
I mean, a good question.
It may not be. No, I don't think it does look like she is in space, possibly. I don't know if we're gonna flash forward. I kind of think that we may end in a spot that's gonna then butt up to to her showing up in the next Avengers, but it could be Kree technology. It could be, hybrid technology. Who knows? Maybe back in the 90s they had more than we thought they did.
Well, we know that S.H.I.E.L.D. was developing a lot of crazy technology. We see some scrolls along here, and this is the famous scene coming up here that everybody's talking about. This little sweet-looking old lady on, I think the L.A. subway, and you just see Carol Danvers give her this nasty look and punch her right in the face. Obviously, this little old lady is a Skrull. Or is Captain Marvel a Skrull?
Or is she brainwashed by Kree, and therefore, who knows? I think there's something up with the little old lady, though. I don't think she's human. The look on her face is pretty. I
mean, the whole point of putting that in this trailer here is to entice everybody. Like, what just happened?
Oh yeah. It's got great shock value for that little scene.
Oh, and okay, so stopping really quick again. This is Ronan the Accuser, who we know from Guardians of the Galaxy, who in Guardians of the Galaxy we know is a bad guy. He's kind of been cast out from Kree society because of his very extreme views. But from what I understand, I don't know if you knew about this, is that at this point in the timeline, he's still very much I guess as much as you can call him a good guy. He's
not cast out.
Yeah, he's not cast out. He's part of Kree society. I'm wondering if we're going to see his fall from grace in this as well.
Doing a little origin story from him. Yeah.
And then the very, very next shot, Phil.
With hair. Oh,
Coulson Philip J. with hair.
Baby Coulson with hair. I love it.
Apparently in the 90s, Phil is very obsessed with MC Hammer and is going to be wearing some MC Hammer pants from what I've been told.
That's amazing.
Nothing about Phil Coulson shocks me anymore. I wonder if we're going to see his car.
Oh, yeah, I wonder.
Then we see the famous beeper scene at the end of Infinity War, and you and I are both a huge fan of the Carol Danvers Mohawk look. You want to talk about that real quick?
Well, she's got they show the Kree helmet, and the Kree helmet is one of those kind of iconic Captain Marvel things where it's got the mohawk hair, and and then later down the line she cuts her hair and she's got more of the mohawk, and I'm hoping in the next one we'll see more of the short hair Carol Danvers, because I think that just gives her kind of a little bit more badass.
A lot of people are saying that because it's the 90s, she has the quote unquote the Rachel hair.
She does, yeah.
And there's the awesome helmet again, and you see her very much at the end of this trailer.
Of the seat of this
the red and blue suit. That is the Captain Marvel trailer. We're both very excited about the movie. Is there anything else you want to touch on? How we've both watched this over 10 times now so we could talk about it. Anything else that you want to touch on that you saw on this? Do you want to go through it again?
I don't know. I think I'm just super excited about all of this.
It's going to be, it's really interesting because and again, we'll talk about this more on the next episode, but I do want to touch on this real quick. We know that this movie is going to introduce the Skrulls, who are notoriously bad in the Marvel Universe. There's the whole Skrull War, and a lot of our favorite characters end up being Skrulls. But what we also know about the Kree from, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and, just Ronan the Accuser and Guardians of the Galaxy, the Kree are not good guys either. Everything we know about them is that they just want to destroy us. They've always been, kind of punks, basically. And, spoilers for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., at one point in the future have basically taken over what's left of Earth. So, do you think it's going to be a situation in Captain Marvel where not all Skrulls are bad and not all Kree are bad, or do you think they're going to just make it a one-sided thing?
I have a little bit of a hard time thinking about good Skrulls. But I don't know. I mean, I think there's got to be nuance to any villains that you have, and I think that, the Captain Marvel story is really that not all Kree are bad. Clearly there are good Kree that occur in her history and in her story, and that's how she gets her powers and Marvel and all those things. So I'm interested to see what kind of nuance they bring and how they interpret the many different storylines that have made up Captain Marvel over the years and what they kind of land on as her origin. And it's going to be an interesting battle, who really is the bad guy and who are they really fighting?
Who are they really fighting? Who's the bad guy? Is it the Kree? Is it the Skrulls? And then the biggest question is all of that wrapping into one movie, and then how she gets to present-day Earth to find half the population gone, and
how is she going to be the key?
Yeah, how is Carol Danvers the key to destroying Thanos, or not destroying Thanos, but beating Thanos? We're going to find out in March. Well, we're partially going to find out in March, and then from what everything is pointing to, a 1 month early release for Avengers 4, not May anymore, but much like Avengers Infinity War, an April release, so we won't have to wait very long. We're going to be talking a lot more about Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel on next week's episode, our big Marvel episode. We'll also talk about where the MCU goes after Avengers 4 and much, much more. Thanks for listening to our trailer breakdown. We'll be back with you in a couple of weeks. Good night.